It's clear, it's cool, and after a long jog, it tastes great. Bottled water is everywhere. It's almost a fashion accessory. Australians spend more than $500 million a year on it. So how did bottled water get so popular? Christopher Zinn is from consumer affairs group Choice.
Is it a miracle of marketing spin? Absolutely, definitely. And to have got millions of people around the world, I think we pay about $500 million a year in Australia on bottled water. Something we get for free, something high quality that is on every tap, has been a fantastic example of the power of marketing and suggestion. Again, people aren't buying water when they're buying bottled water. They are buying the image of health. They're buying perhaps some elixir from some tropical forest, they think. You know, it's people aren't just doing it to quench their thirst.
But some aren't buying it.
The fact that it's a totally unnecessary consumption when you can go to a tap and get it for free.
An unnecessary consumption that comes with environmental consequences. According to the Department of Environment and Climate Change, bottled water production caused 60,000 tonnes of greenhouse gas emissions last year. A 2007 report says 55% of bottled water ends up in landfill. Only 36% is recycled. It's facts like these that are turning Gen Y green. Meet the latest eco-warriors. North Sydney's Monty Santangelo Mercy College has banned the sale of bottled water in its canteen. And it was the students who made it all happen. Claudia Saunders is Monty's environmental captain.
If we could get plastic water bottles out of more and more canteens, I mean, we're starting with the youth, I guess, and teaching them that this is unnecessary consumption, that we can end it here, that there's an alternative. And if we can get that in our schools, I think it will definitely start impacting on the companies themselves. I mean, nothing's going to happen until we reject them. We can't sort of get on our high horse and say, you know, morally this is wrong. We've actually got to reject it ourselves and stop our own consumption.
The students have installed drinking fountains throughout their school to replace bottled water.
You could tell as soon as they were installed they were being used much more than the old design was, because I think for girls there's a bit of an ick factor, you know. The old ones had these troughs that you sort of accumulated dirt, and these ones are just so much more appealing and getting used so much more. And it's especially good, you know, when girls are doing sport, if they forget their drink bottle they just come out to this.
Claire Harrison, Monty's environmental coordinator, says the project aimed to change students' habits.
Trying to break down the mentality of the plastic bottle. Lots of students believe that, you know, you can't drink tap water because of the marketing campaigns that have gone on behind the scenes. They're targeting young girls, they're making it look cool, so changing that mentality has probably been one of the challenges, but I think once girls understood the realities of the situation, they were quite accepting of it, and they've now been using the bubblers, all the time.
According to News Limited, drinking water in Melbourne or Sydney costs $1.20 a tonne. Bottled water costs around $3,000 a tonne. That means on average 1 litre bottle of water costs $3. 1 litre of petrol costs around $1.20. Jeff Parker is Chief Executive of the Australasian Bottled Water Institute.
We think bottled water is being unfairly targeted. One of the reasons is that the detractors of bottled water want to compare bottled water with tap water. Bottled water doesn't compete with tap water, it never has, never will. Bottled water does compete with all those other beverages that it shares shelf space with, be that in a supermarket, vending machine or shop fridge.
He says banning bottled water may encourage more people to drink soft drinks.
Well, once again, in a country that's ranked 4th in OECD countries for obesity, we should be avoiding these extra kilojoules.
But is bottled water the angel it's cracked up to be? Philippa Sawyer, a paediatric dentist, says bottled water can't compete with tap water in terms of dental health.
I think the absolute best drink is fluoridated tap water. Now, if you don't have a supply of fluoridated tap water on hand, or if in hot climates you want a chilled water source, then bottled water is the second best to that. So I guess I'd encourage them not to withdraw water from their canteens, because it's in a form that kids seem to have really taken to. What I'd really like to see is that water becoming fluoridated water.
But Claudia Saunders says bottled water's environmental impact is reason enough to ban it.
So, we've learnt about the really small percentage of water bottles that are actually recycled, and the fact that it's a totally unnecessary consumption when you can go to a tap and get it for free.
These bottles are made out of PET, a substance derived from refined crude oil. In Australia, around 50 million litres of oil is used to make and distribute these every year. Which begs the question, why aren't more people using these? But Jeff Parker says bottled water takes up only a small proportion of Australia's total oil consumption.
Total bottled water production in Australia accounts for 0.0017% of all the oil used, so we need to keep the product in perspective.
But this doesn't sound right to some.
I think that's just spin doctoring on their behalf. They've got the PR campaigns driving that kind of ridiculous talk. The fact that we know certain facts about what does get recycled, what doesn't get recycled.
Jeff Parker says more recycling bins on streets, not banning bottled water, is the way to limit its environmental impact.
The Institute, in regards to recycling, is about encouraging people to put the package in the right bin. At the end of the day, we need to keep the product in perspective. It is 100% recyclable, so people, when they're out and about, just need more options to be able to recycle the package. So it really comes down to councils being able to, and other shopping centres, for example, being able to provide that recycling bin.
Christopher Zinn says consumers should be able to choose for themselves if they want to drink bottled water or not.
But to ban it does seemingly take us back to the bad old days of Mongolia in the 1960s, when they'd outlaw things they didn't like. We live in a free market. Things come and go. I think it's actually much better to persuade people that there are alternatives and make those alternatives free. That should drive, free is very hard to beat.
But one thing is clear, Monty has triggered a movement that others are joining in. The University of Canberra is now considering banning bottled water sales on its grounds.
As a whole, the population is kind of now aware of what's going on, and they're going to start saying no.
We've got such a great response from the whole community. The day of the big sort of press day, we got so many emails of people congratulating us and saying, we love what you've done, how did you do it? And they want to do it themselves. And that's what we're really looking for, because realistically, Monty's not going to change the world, but if we get everyone else involved, then we'll actually make an impact. So that's exactly what we've wanted, and it was so good to see that support.
This is Ben Vozzo reporting for UTS News.